house burning down, so.
Do you?
Yeah, mine,
I've gone through that.
Mine burned down not last summer, but the summer before. Yeah, in Jackson.
Okay. So you're familiar with the process she's now going through with the insurance companies.
It is crazy.
It's, and Lansing is, thank you. Okay, we are good to go. We are rolling. So, let me stop the chit chat. Let me get my packet up here. And since we're all here, yay. All right, I'm going to go ahead and call this meeting to order. Good evening. Welcome to the Charter Township of Meridian Zoning Board of Appeals meeting. Today is Wednesday, May 15th, 2024. It is officially 6:30, and I will now call this meeting to order. We will start with a roll call. So Member Bennett.
Here.
Member Koenig.
Present.
Let's see. Member Trezise.
Yes.
And Member McCurtis.
Here.
And Chair Mansour is here. We will move on to number 2 on our agenda, which is the approval of tonight's agenda. Any questions or concerns regarding agenda this evening, or anything that needs maybe a little bit of clarification? I think it looked good to me. Okay, I don't see any need for, what's that?
Be waiting for us to record.
Yes.
You're good.
There we go. All right. I don't see any need for any more discussion on approval of the agenda, so I will go ahead and motion to approve tonight's agenda.
Support.
Support by Member Trezise. This is a vote for approval of tonight's agenda. Member Bennett,
Yes.
Member Koenig,
Yes.
Member Trezise.
Yes.
And Member McCurtis.
Yes.
And the chair votes yes, so tonight's agenda is approved. Moving on to the minutes from March 20th, 2024. I hope everybody had a chance to look over those. I know I did briefly, but it looked like you guys did a great job in lieu of having a bare bones group with you. Any conversation or concern, any corrections necessary? Yes, Member Koenig.
A couple that I saw
Okay.
under number 1, call meeting to order. The very first thing says Chair Mansour, and I don't believe she was there.
Okay, no, I was not.
And then
Okay.
the very end, it says all board members present except the chair, vice chair, and then member Field Foster.
Okay,
Member Field
and
Foster is not.
Member Field Foster is no longer
CBA.
a member of the board. Okay.
Those are the only 2 things I saw. It looked like you guys did a fantastic job.
It really did.
In our absence, and being that I wasn't here, I can't, obviously I
Right,
didn't hear the
that-
first things you guys said, so even though I just wanted to make those mention, I'm gonna probably abstain from voting, because I don't know what you guys originally had said when you were here, so
Yeah.
I don't wanna try to
Okay.
correct something that I didn't hear the first time around.
Yes.
I move to approve the minutes as presented.
Support.
All right. So this would be a vote to approve the minutes as presented from March 20th, 2024's meeting. Member Bennett
Yes.
and Member Koenig.
I'm gonna abstain from voting.
Okay. Member Trezise,
Yes.
Member McCurtis,
Yes.
and the chair would also abstain from voting. And we have 3 yeses, so the minutes from March 20th are approved. Moving on, we have no communication and no unfinished business, so we'll get directly into new business, which brings us to case number 2404 at 2810 Hannah, Metro Detroit Signs, 11444 Colts Avenue, Warren, Michigan, 48089. And Mr. Chapman, what do you got for us today?
Good evening. So the applicant is requesting a variance to add 2 wall signs at 2810 Hannah Boulevard. One of these wall signs does not meet the size requirement and one doesn't meet the location requirement on the building facade. The site is 8.39 acres in size and is zoned RP Research Park. There was a variance granted in 1999 to allow a 144 square foot wall sign on the west facade, where only 1 sign was permitted on the front south facade. It was brought to my attention that there is in fact a sign on facing Hannah on the front facade. However, I don't have any record of a building permit for that sign, so. Under the current ordinance, the subject site is permitted to have 1 wall sign on the front facade that cannot exceed 40 square feet. The applicant's proposing to install 2 wall signs that read Big B Coffee Ice Cube East Lansing. One on the west facade, one on the south facade. The sign on the west facade is proposed to be 160.9 square feet in size, and the sign on the south facade is 133 square feet. So the applicant is requesting a variance of 93 square feet for a wall sign on the south facade and a variance to allow an additional wall sign on the west facade.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Chapman. Would the applicant or the applicant's representative like to speak on this case? I'm assuming that's you. Come on up to the podium here. Please state your name and address for the public record, sir.
It's William Collins, 9165 Lakeview Court, Saline, Michigan, 48176.
You said McCollins?
Collins, Collins.
Just Collins?
Yep,
Okay,
sorry.
gotcha. No, I just wanted to make
Speaking
sure
clearly.
I clearly misheard, so I just wanted to make sure I addressed you correctly. Thank you, Mr. Collins. Anything you want to add to the case this evening that Mr. Chapman
I was
presented?
going to ask, and I think you just answered my question, whether you had a package showing the
Yeah.
proposed signage.
Yeah.
Okay. I think from the size standpoint, if you have the package in front of you, we understand that the ordinance calls for 40 square feet, which would allow it approximately, 8 by 5 square foot sign. The elevations that our proposed signs are going on, one is over 400 feet long, and the other is almost 300, I believe. And as we look at the scaling, and you look at the drawings and the photographs, we believe that the proportion of signage to wall length is appropriate and allows for visibility of those signs. As far as, I think the other variance for location,
Yes.
I'm not sure exactly what that means.
So the sign on where the entrance is was permitted by the variance. But somehow when it became Suburban Ice, the sign that is on the facade facing Hannah
Yes.
appeared, and I don't have any record of that.
Okay,
So that's kind of the issue.
okay.
And
Got it.
really, you don't know how that happened.
Yeah, understand. Again, what we're proposing is signs on what we consider the most visible elevations of the building. So the elevation facing Hannah and then the elevation right over the entrance to the arena.
Okay. All right, Mr. Collins, if you would like to stay at the podium, that would be helpful for us. Just, if there anything else that you want to add? Otherwise, we'll go get into our board time and likely have questions that we'll be asking in
Absolutely.
that capacity. So if nobody else would like to speak regarding this case, there is nobody else in our audience, so I'm going to close public comment and move into board time. So at this point, we can go ahead and discuss what, any questions we may have for Mr. Chapman or Mr. Collins and what we're feeling about this variance in particular. So I will open the floor to anybody who has any questions or comments. Yes, Member Trusais, go ahead.
Mr. Chapman? Question. Since current code only provides for a single sign on the south facade, does he, to meet his request, require 2 variances for that? To add a second sign as well as the size?
That he is requesting 2 variances, so the one sign.
But he's asking for a variance for the west facade and a variance for the size on the south facade.
Yeah,
So
so
there's already a sign on the south facade.
the south facade, well, hold on. The south facade was never approved, so that doesn't count.
Oh, okay, all right, that was my question,
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah, so that doesn't count because we don't have any record of it ever being approved.
But the sign's there, it just gets to stay regardless. Ish, right? We're in a gray area of, the sign's already there. It hasn't been necessarily approved, but it's there.
So now that they're changing it
It's-
because they have different ownership, they have to comply to our ordinance.
Okay.
And the sound, even the sign on the west facade, because it's coming down and it's a different size than what was previously there,
Right.
they're gonna need a variance for it.
Okay. So I guess did that answer your question, Member Trusais, or do you have another one?
That sort of answers my.
It didn't really answer my question. It kind of gave me new questions to answer.
I mean, I suppose it is possible to enforce and take that sign down if we chose to.
Yeah, I mean, they changed ownership, so they're,
That would be, that's what
Yeah.
kind of yields into my question, which is, if this is a change in ownership, which
I'm sorry, I should have explained that.
yes, thank you, because that just helps guide, because as, you know, as we make our decisions also, we know that these variances go with the building to the next ownership. So if we have a sign there that's not approved, if that's coming down, that does,
yeah, because they're changing the name and with the change of ownership, then they're required to comply
Okay.
with.
they're required to comply. So this is part of that coming to compliance.
So if they came back and wanted to add a sign replacing the one that's there, that would be another variance.
Oh, yeah, absolutely,
Okay.
because we
Yeah.
don't have a record, yeah.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
So what I'm hearing and understanding, and please, Mr. Collins, confirm that for me, is that sign, this sign is a replacement for that sign, but in compliance with being
Approved or not.
approved. Does that sound
Are you
correct?
taking down the
The
sign? that's
suburbanized
here?
sign is coming down.
Comes down.
That will be, that
That
is
sign right there replaces it.
replaced, it is replaced.
Gotcha.
So it's only one sign as opposed to two on that, on
Gotcha.
that
All
sign.
right.
On that elevation, correct.
On that elevation?
Yeah.
Great, okay. That clears up a little bit.
Yes.
Member McCurtis, go
I want to make
ahead.
sure I heard correctly. So the suburban ice sign is coming down
Yes.
and then the Bigby sign is going up. And it's going to be in compliance in terms of size.
No.
No,
That's what the variance is.
That's what the variance is.
So the variance is for size on that elevation.
And then my
That's
other
the first
question.
variance, so there's two.
Yep. And is this so I have two questions, just real quick.
Yeah, no, go for it.
Is this what we're looking at, the front entrance?
no.
No?
That's the south
That's-
That's
facade.
the,
This is the front entrance.
Okay.
got it.
This is on the west.
Okay,
So no sign currently on this elevation.
got it. And this is the one that's going in the front entrance. Is that it? What is the issue there? There's no sign, I mean, I know there's no sign there, but the size, the variance is because of the size of this one too?
No,
Clarification, there is a
Yes.
sign there.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, no. So there is a sign
Okay.
there, that was the variance that was granted in 1999.
Okay,
So they replaced it. We have everything, we have a permit for that sign, so that sign's good.
okay,
So if they wanted to, they could come in and replace that sign with the exact same size of the sign that's there.
so west elevation is size as well, so both are size.
Yeah, well, I mean, if you're allowing it theoretically, you're permitting the size as well, so, yeah.
If we're allowing, because there
Because it's not allowed.
'Cause it's not
Sign's not allowed, period, so.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is that clear as mud?
That part.
Yeah,
because if it was approved in what year,
99.
then isn't that, why do we have to,
Because it's larger than what was approved.
gotcha.
Yes.
That's what it is, the
Okay.
size, okay.
So adjustment to the size.
Got it. That's what I was looking for.
That makes more sense, yes, thank you, that is definitely,
Was the original variance for size? Or was it for location?
Just the location of it, yeah.
so the as is, location has
That's
a
a
variance, but
non-conforming.
size, it was okay,
Yeah.
okay. And, another question I would have is, especially with this, the south elevation sign, what is permitted on that? So as the ordinance stands, one sign is permitted, correct? And it is permitted to be on the south elevation, but what's the size?
40 square feet.
It's 40, okay. So it's based on, so what is the 40 square feet based on?
That's our research park size.
Okay,
for
so it's the zone,
the zoning district.
okay.
Yeah, it's not like commercial where it's based on lineal footage.
Right, okay. I'm gonna just say I can already meet unique circumstances, because while this is research zoned, we all know that this is not necessarily exactly what this is being used for, especially being the ice arena in the area for all the sports that happen there. And although we cannot strictly make decisions based on what is happening at that business in that building at any particular time, because as we know, it can transfer ownerships, it can transfer use. This facility, it's in and of itself is being used for a different thing necessarily than the research park zone would allow it for. So to me, I feel like I can meet that.
I think the other issue there is it is such a large building.
It is very large.
That
Yeah.
is
Yes, it is a very
an
large.
anomaly in a professional office or
In a
research park
research
area.
park area. And I think that the in and of itself, the sign, and I will put blinders on to the existing sign that doesn't comply and doesn't have a variance, to say that looking at even the elevation here that has been proposed, it still is not, it's not eclipsing anything in that area to the point where it would be, I'd say, against the spirit of the ordinance. So I can already meet a couple of our criteria. Do we have any other questions or concerns for Mr. Chapman? Yes.
One question for Mr. Collins. Has anyone ever complained, you know, to either the current owner or the previous owner that driving along they couldn't see the signs on the building, especially the one by the entrance?
Boy, I do not have an answer to that, no.
I figured you did. That's a cool, yeah.
I mean, I have complained about going to events and going to birthday parties there and going, where do I turn? I don't go there frequently, so anytime I have been there, it has been kind of one of those, is that it?
Yeah,
How do you get in there?
8x5, if you, take that Meridian sign over
Right.
there and split that in half vertically,
Right.
and then
That's-
take the half and turn it, that's
Yep,
pretty much an
that's-
8x5. It's a
exactly.
pretty good sized sign still. However, I do agree with
But-
Member Trezise that it's a massive building, and it would make sense to me to have the two signs, because you got two different entrances there. You got somebody coming from the south side
Yes.
that aren't gonna see the sign on the west. You got people coming on Hannah that, by the time they were to see the sign on the front, they're already past the entrance of that building.
That's our strategy.
But I don't think the west sign is even visible from Hannah.
It's not.
Yeah, it's probably
Yeah,
tough.
no,
That's
you
why I
can't-
wanted to know if
you
people
don't see
complained
the
about
parking
it.
You
lot
don't
of
see
the
the
hospital.
entrance from
Yeah.
Hannah, yeah.
So I personally don't really have much, I had the same type of questions as far as how many variances and all that stuff, and good to know that they don't have a permit, but that's
But
another
it's-
problem for another day,
But
since we're gonna take it down, yeah.
but if a new owner is making it right, I feel like
Correct.
that's where I can, find comfort in that it's being corrected and it's being taken care of and handled in the proper way through proper channels and, through building and planning and then through us.
I would
So
agree.
that's the right way, that's the way it's supposed to happen, so
Appreciate
I
it.
can appreciate that.
And not that it's part of this variance application,
Yeah.
but we're also redoing the entire interior. So, new paint, new, so we purchased 3 rinks. I'm from Ann Arbor, so the
Okay.
Ann Arbor Ice Cube, if anyone's familiar with that.
Great.
I'm there a couple times a week, and I didn't have anything to do with the interior
Yeah.
signage, but my gosh, it looks better than it
Good.
has in 20 years.
That's
And we'll be doing the
awesome.
same thing here.
That's great. That's good to hear.
Bless
Bless
you.
you. All right, well, if we don't have any other questions right off the bat, Member Trezise, did you have something?
Well, I don't have an issue with the south facade.
Okay. You want to talk about the west?
The west facade seems like an awful large sign,
Okay, let's talk about
and it's not visible from the road anyway.
it. Right,
So I could see it as a sign there necessary to tell people what's inside the building at the entrance. But it seems like an awful large sign, but it doesn't look it on the drawing, so.
that's where, I mean, when I look at that bottom elevation drawing of the sign versus the frontage of the entirety of that building, it's, again, that feels like, I mean, I think, yeah, looking at 42 feet is one number, and then you look at where 42 feet fits in on the actual elevation, and it feels like, whoa, okay, that's a big building.
But that is the only entrance in the building.
That's it,
And
yeah.
the rest of the building is pretty much blank. So
Right.
I don't find it intrusive, let's put it that way.
Okay.
It just seemed like a big ask.
Yeah, it does. I agree. When I saw that number, it does seem like a really large, sign. Yes, Member Koenig.
Building off what Member Tresice is saying, was there any thought of moving that sign kind of higher on that wall so people could see it better? Because right now it looks like it's maybe 4 or 5 feet above the, I don't know what you want to call that, the cover of the doorway?
Yeah, I think we had to, well, there's different materials on that wall, or at least they're positioned differently. So if you go up just a little bit higher, you get into a kind of a different backing. And so we thought we'd keep it just above, if you look at where the doors are, there's kind of a,
So
go ahead.
I was just gonna say, if you can't really see it here, but it's actually, this is a lower elevation than the rest of the building.
Okay, so yeah.
So it's like step
It's,
down.
So
it
it
steps
would be
down,
back.
yeah.
Yeah, so
that
it'd
makes
be
sense.
way behind.
Back behind the, kind of a
Right.
parapet almost.
Okay,
Okay, that makes sense.
that does make sense.
Yeah, okay.
What the location of it for sure does.
There's not really an easy way to see it, but
No, because I don't even think.
a lot of trees.
Yeah, a little bit, couple trees. Okay.
Yeah, I see it there.
Right, there we go. Yeah, so it's got a few different heights there.
That's like,
Yeah,
it's like 40, 50 feet back beyond the original
Right.
roof line, so.
right, it's hard to see it from that flat
Didn't realize
drawing.
that.
The entrance actually is right over here, so it kind of drops down even more.
Right,
Okay, no worries. Makes sense.
okay. I do get what Member Trezise is saying about the size of that being that 42-foot sign. Because again, this will go with, so, Big B Ice Cube turns into Suburban again, and it'll be Suburban again. But I do think in the spirit of the size and scope of the building in this particular facade, it doesn't feel excessive in context. It feels excessive by number, but maybe not in context of the building to me. So. All right. Any other questions as we are taking a look? All right, we'll try to get into our criteria and see if we can meet our 5 criteria. Criteria number 1 exists that unique circumstances exist that are peculiar to the land or structure that are not applicable to other land or structures in the same zoning district, and these unique circumstances are not self-created. And this is one that I can meet pretty easily in this circumstance.
I think especially from Anna, the parking lot in between and the offset makes it a pretty long ways to the building, so
Yeah.
it is unique to the property.
Right, and that, being a boulevarded street and being,
Right.
the way that traffic runs on that road also does make, for a particular unique circumstance there, so I can meet that criteria pretty easily. Criteria number 2 is strict interpretation and enforcement of the literal terms and provisions of this chapter would result in practical difficulties that will prevent the owner from using the property for a permitted purpose. I mean,
I think definitely because, it's a business. If you can't really see the business or identify what it is, that's definitely going to hinder you for using it for its intended purpose. So I can see that.
yep, I would agree with Member Bennett. I think the practical difficulty here is getting people to get to the location. And if we're seeing a big building on a, back off of a main road and it doesn't have signage, are you able to locate that for whatever the business that happens to be there is doing at that time. So in this particular case, you got to have skaters that are coming, you got to have teams that are coming and things like that. And if they can't find it, then you're not getting to that permitted purpose. So I can meet the practical difficulties on this one. at least for the south elevation. I don't know if anybody would like to take them apart and make them two separate cases as they were, or if you're comfortable with putting them both together. What are we thinking about that one?
For,
Go ahead.
for me, because of the size of the building,
Yes.
I'm good with coupling them together.
Okay. That's how I'm feeling about them. So as long as everybody is kind of in the same
I would agree with
member
that,
to size.
Curtis.
Yeah.
agreed.
Okay. All right. In that case, I do think, I think both are part and parcel in the permitted purpose piece, that south elevation is getting people in, and same with west elevation, being able to get people into the entrance, because that's another challenge. This is a very, very massive building. So getting people into the building itself, I think is the practical difficulty. So I can meet that for both variances here. Criteria number 3 is granting the variance is the minimum action necessary, which will carry out the spirit of this zoning ordinance, secure public safety, and provide substantial justice. I know I said it earlier, but I will say, I think that this is definitely in the spirit of the ordinance. I do understand having a smaller sign ordinance for Research Park. I get it, because most of them are not this type of a venue or a location that has multiple uses, a lot of foot traffic, a lot of people in and out, and such a massive structure. So I can definitely meet minimum action here based on our conversations about the size of the frontage versus what they're looking for. So when we look at some of our retail locations and retail zoning, we look at, size versus frontage. So that's kind of where my brain is going with this, to kind of think about it in a way that, yes, we're in a research park zone, but how would we handle this if it was in a different situation? Member Koenig.
I think the size of the signs, based on, like you said, the size of the building, are reasonable. They're big, but I think based on the building, they're not asking for a variance that's gonna cover, half that size of that building. Then I think, maybe minimum, maybe they could do a little bit smaller, make the minimum
I would say
variance.
it's minimum, but it's not unreasonable.
It's not
Yeah.
unreasonable.
Yeah,
And I guess I would look at kind of ratio, if we're looking at it as a percentage of frontage, it feels to me as a reasonable is a good way to put it. And could we say, yes, go ahead and put a 40-foot sign on there? Sure. Is it going to lessen those practical difficulties the way that this particular version of it is? I don't think it's going to lessen it that much more. Yes, Member Bennett.
I was gonna say, call me crazy, but I don't think the spirit of the ordinance was written as like with a research park this big in mind, like a building this big, so.
Absolutely.
I'm just gonna go out on a limb and say they weren't thinking of a building like this when they made minimum size requirements.
It's one of the few zoning codes I know that has an absolute square footage.
Right.
That's not in residential area.
Right.
All the commercial, it's based on
Right.
size of the building.
It's based on frontage, yeah. Yeah, so I do think in that case, we do and add that to our unique circumstances here for that ordinance. So I think we can successfully meet criteria number 3. Criteria number 4 would be granting the variance will not adversely affect adjacent land or the essential character in the vicinity of the property. If anything, I think that this is going to help that area.
Yeah, I was gonna say, it enhances that area to me.
Absolutely. That's a great way to put it, because I think not having those stop and go, like, is it here? Is it not? Is it here? Is it not? Having the traffic move smoothly, get people in and out safely, and like you said, enhances that area with some new signage. And I will say, I will just add, I very much appreciate that the new owners will come in and come to compliance as opposed to slapping a sign up there. So tisk to suburbanize for wherever they put that sign up there. But we appreciate going through the proper channels, working with the township, getting what you need to get in order to get your building to be compliant. So we appreciate that.
Thank you.
And finally, Criteria number 5 is granting the variance will be generally consistent with public interest and the purposes and intent of this chapter. And I can safely meet that criteria.
I think so, based on our discussion of the prior 4, it's
Yep.
clear that it does.
Yep, I absolutely
Agreed.
think it will. Okay. Well, if there's no further discussion, anybody want to make a motion? All right, Member Trezise, go
I
for it.
move we grant the 2 variances requested in ZBA case 24-04 for 2810 Hannah in East Lansing.
Seconded.
Okay, who was that? Was that?
Yeah,
Okay,
sorry.
sorry.
Kind of whispered
Just want to
that
make
one
sure,
out.
yep, remember, okay. So this is a motion to approve. Any comments or thoughts on the motion on the table? If not, this will be a vote to approve both variances for ZBA case number 24-04, 2810 Hannah. Member Bennett,
Yes.
Member Koenig,
Yes.
Member Trezise,
Yes.
Member McCurtis,
Yes.
and the chair votes yes. So your 2 variances have been approved.
Thank you very much.
We appreciate all the hard work going through this with us, and good luck.
We appreciate consideration, and thank you for your help with getting us applied and getting before the ZBA.
No
You-
problem.
ZBAs probably don't want to hear this, but I will tell you that working with Bigby franchisees, I
Yeah.
tell them you can't spend too much on signage within the ordinance. So put up as much as you can.
Right.
Right, right. Within the ordinance. That's, you know, our hope is that it doesn't come to us, and when it needs to, we can, you know, come to reasonable terms.
We do, I mean, we try to do code checks before, that's our sign company's responsibility. You need to
Exactly.
know, then come back to us, and then we design around what we interpret, and we're not always correct.
Yeah.
But what we interpret, the code, you know, the code check finds. So we don't always hit it right on, but we do our best. And Mr. Chapman was helpful with that.
Yeah, we have the best staff in the biz. We do.
Thank you very much.
All right, thank you,
Thank
Mr.
you.
Collins.
Thank you.
All right, well, now that we have handled our new business for the evening, let's go back to our agenda. I believe the only other thing on our agenda is our election of our 2024 officers. Yes, Member Koenig.
I nominate the current chair, Monsieur, to be the continuous chair.
Okay. Do you want to second that, Member Bennett?
Oh, yes.
I feel very awkward seconding myself. I will do it. All right. Motion for Chair Mansour to stay as chair, and that was motion by Member Koenig and seconded by Member Bennett. This is a vote for myself to stay as the chair of the board. Member Bennett,
Yes.
Member Koenig.
Yes.
Oh, gosh. Gosh, don't sound so enthusiastic, guys. So these two are non-voting, correct? Or they can vote?
They can vote,
Okay,
yeah, yeah.
all right. Well, come on, guys.
Yes.
Member Trezise, Member
yes.
McCurtis.
Yes.
They both voted yes, and I will vote yes to myself, sure.
There just
Chair-
can't be a chair.
We can't serve.
Yes, you can't serve. And the chair votes yes, so I will remain as chair of the ZBA for 2024. Even though we're halfway through 2024, but we'll get there. All right, well, I have a motion to make. I motion to keep Member Koenig as our vice chair for 2024,
Seconded.
seconded by Member Bennett. Any discussion? And do we need to, we don't have that much choice. Sorry, Member Bennett, not your year.
Totally fine.
Okay. All right, this is a vote to approve Member Koenig staying as our vice chair. Member Bennett,
Yes.
Member Trezise,
Yes.
Member McCurtis.
Yes.
Chair votes yes. Would you like to vote yes for yourself?
Sure.
All right. Sticking as vice chair is Member Koenig. So we are all set with our election of our 2024 officers. I will open the floor now to public remarks. Okay, closing the floor for public remarks, since there is nobody here. And we'll open the floor for board member comments. And I'll just say, welcome. I know that's not official yet, but welcome to Member Bennett as official
Yes.
member of our board, and to Member McCurtis for joining us. And Member Tresice for staying with us from the board now, just switching hats, so to speak. But glad to have you here. Glad to have a full board.
Glad to be here.
It feels good to have 5, and so we'll do good work, guys.
Let's hope so.
All right. On that note, unless anybody has anything else to say? I'd love to do it. Meeting adjourned. All right.